Oh man, more bad news. Seems like that's all I've been having here lately. Had these out just to get through winter, to try to keep these rabbits alive through that cold snap we had. Hey guys, what's going on? I got some bad news to share with you today. Late last night I got up to use the restroom, and I went over to get a drink of water, and I noticed that I've got a floodlight over here off camera. You can't really see it, but I've got one of these floodlights that's motion activated, and it was on, and my dog was inside. I think the cats were outside. We got 2 cats, and I think they were out, so I was kind of looking to see if I saw a cat moving around out there, which is normally what happens. Well, I got to tell you, after over a decade, probably 12 or 14 years that we've been here at this suburb house. Now we do have like a little patch of woods behind us, but then there's a neighborhood behind there. So it's like we're surrounded by neighborhoods. There's more woods over that direction, and I think that's where they came from. But anyway, I looked out here and the floodlight was on, and sure enough, I saw something large. I couldn't quite make out exactly what it was. At first, I thought it was a deer in the backyard. We've been having a lot of deer around, just hanging out. Okay, so that's a clue to what might be going on here. And again, I didn't really get a great look at it. It was a blur, and there were 2 blurs actually. So there was a pair of these things in the yard. They were definitely canine. I'm not sure if it was just a couple of, dogs that have packed up, that have taken to climbing fences and hunting, but this whole backyard is surrounded by, I don't know what it is, 4.5 foot. I think it's a 4-foot fence. And most dogs don't climb over fences like that, especially these fences are old school fences. So when I put this up, I saved all the fencing. I had at one point a long time ago, one of the fences got knocked down, and we had to move some fencing and stuff and do some different things and do some dirt work and stuff. So the fence had to move. And so I took it down, but I saved the old fencing because it was the old style that had the pokey parts at the top, right? So that if animals try to climb over, it's really uncomfortable, or maybe even pokes into them. Well, I can't even find that stuff anymore. I don't even think they're allowed to make it anymore. So I saved that stuff, put it back up, and up to this point, we've never had any problems with predation or any kind of... I had a snake a big snake get into the chicken coop 3 or 4 years ago, and the way I found out about it was I reached my hand up in there for eggs, because where I've got my nesting boxes, they're kind of high up, and I normally don't even look in. I just kind of reach in. Sometimes you grab a turd and you can feel it immediately. This time it wasn't a turd. It wasn't an egg either, and I could tell it moved, and I was like, it was scaly, and I'm scared to death of snakes. I don't like snakes. I kill everyone I see, but anyway, that's another story. That's the only predators we've ever had come onto the property, and he was just eating eggs. He wasn't eating the chickens. In fact, when I caught the thing and pulled him out of there, he was all tangled around the chain link, and it was hell to get him out of there. But when I finally got him out of there, he had an egg partway in his mouth. He had unhinged his jaw and was currently eating that egg. Well, anyway, back to the story at hand, okay? Last night, predator in the backyard, a pair of predators in the backyard. I can't tell what they're doing. This was my mistake. My closest gun that I had was, a hand reach away, because that's the way I like to keep things, okay? I had a 9mm sitting up there on top of one of our cabinets that I could have grabbed. I looked right at it and I was like, okay, I could grab that 9mm. But again, the problem is I've got a neighborhood back behind me, and houses and buildings, and it was the middle of the night. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, so it probably wasn't, no one was out, but still, I don't want to be launching stuff towards my neighbors' houses and stuff. So I don't have very many places that I could actually take a shot, and where I was standing on the back porch is over there, and the rabbits are out here toward the back of my property, and of course right behind that is a house and a neighborhood. So it's not a great place to be firing off, and especially at the middle of the night, and 9mm is loud. So I thought I could go get my 22, and I actually do have some 22 quiet rounds that I could have used, but I didn't want to use those because, again, the same deal. By the time I got them out, loaded them up, and I've never even test fired them or anything like that. So, and the only thing I had available was a scoped bolt action that I knew for sure, you know, all this is processing through my head in a millisecond. So I'm like, okay, I got a pellet gun, but the pellet gun was out here in this red shop, which is back behind you guys. That's the building that has the floodlight on it. This is the area they were in. So anyway, long story short, I go outside. I thought about opening the door. My dog knew immediately. She could tell something was going on, and she was wanting out bad. And I thought about letting her out because she's a pretty tough dog. I think she could probably handle her own, but I was worried they were coyotes, okay? That's what I'm getting to. I think I had a pair of coyotes in my backyard last night. And when I take you over here and show you the damage, maybe you can help me figure it out. But I probably won't be sleeping much tonight. I'll probably be hanging out in the back, you know, by the back door, because whatever these were, they were canine for sure. Even if they were dogs, they definitely know that there's food over here now, easy to get to, or fairly easy. And that's a failure on my part. Maybe I should have made the cages differently, but again, I never hadn't had to deal with anything like this before. So this is definitely a hard lesson for us, because I'll just cut to the chase. Our very favorite rabbit. My wife literally just like 2 weeks ago told me when we were driving over to the land, she was like, oh, I just love Pete. He's my favorite rabbit. He's so friendly. And he was. You could pick him up and pet him. He was the one rabbit. We both agreed on that trip that no matter what happened, we wouldn't, you know, we would just keep him as a breeder. We weren't going to ever, you know, eat him or anything like that, because he was he was the OG buck to our group, and the first rabbit. I mean, so I'm upset about it. I didn't want her to know about it because she had a bunch of important meetings today at work, and she wakes up and she sees that I'm still awake. I was in my office looking up coyote stuff, and she was like, hey, what are you doing? Come to bed. I'm like, no, I can't come to bed. She's like, well, what do you mean? And then I had to tell her. And she burst into tears. It was horrible. I hate to see my wife cry. It makes me upset. But you know, this is the reason I'm making this video. You know, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I know about this. I've had to deal with livestock death, and that's part of it. It's a hard lesson, but I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit or anything because of this. We had some friends of the family, my wife's friends, that they were raising the giant, I can't remember what they're called, but those giant rabbits, they're so cool. They're really big rabbits, but anyway, they had the same thing happen, except for they didn't catch them in the act like I did. I was lucky, because these things weren't killing them and eating them. They were killing them and then going to the next one and opening up the next cage. So let me show you what they did, and maybe this will help you out if you're trying to start a rabbitry, or if you're wanting to do something. I suggest if you're going to have a chain link fence, maybe go 6 foot or at least 5 foot. If you can get the pokey bits at the top, that's even better. Let's pull you in here and I'll show you the damage. Okay, so this is my back porch, and excuse the mess. I've got concrete stuff going on over here, all kinds of stuff left over from our concrete project, and I also had a plumbing project, so that's kind of the place where things end up until they go into the scrapyard to the trash. But anyway, I was behind that glass door right there. I looked out like I always do, and that's one of the things, if you're going to have livestock, you need to be looking out all the time, and even more than I did apparently. But I looked out up to here. There's this big oak tree and this trellis thing that we didn't make, someone else made it, and then this building right here, which has, as you can see, a motion light on it. Well, the first thing I did was I looked over here toward my rabbitry, right, just to see what was going on. I expected to see a cat, and you know, again, excuse the mess. We barely made it through winter. That's why all these boards are all over the place. I had to take these boards and cut them down just to make wind blocks, because it got so bloody cold here that I was worried my rabbits were going to freeze to death, and we couldn't move them into the greenhouse because the greenhouse is it's in such disrepair. It needs to come down. It's one of my 1,000,010 projects that I've got to work on. But anyway, I put the wood up there to block the north wind. Right, well, it also blocked my view. So I look out here and I didn't see anything at first, but then all of a sudden I saw a movement right over here. And I was like, huh, what was that? And it was bigger than a cat. And like I said, the color and everything made me think it was a deer at first. So then I come on out and they're gone, whatever these things were. They climbed right over the fence like nothing. So if you've followed the channel for a while and know about my rabbitry, normally there would be another cage just like that one right there. It's gone. On my way in, it was right over here, all twisted up. Way worse than it is right now, but look at this. You can see her fur. They were tearing through, and you can see they broke. They were breaking the wire. Whatever these things were, they were so damned hungry, they were going to chew through that wire until they got them. And she barely survived. You can see there's some dirty marks on her. She's missing some fur. I didn't see any blood anywhere, but look what they did to this cage. I mean, they just ruined it. They pulled it off my stand over there. And I think at one time I had them bolted down, but when we moved them last year from the greenhouse back outside, because you want them outside. Anyway, when we did that, I must have forgotten to bolt them down. So that's my mistake. If I'd have had them bolted down, they wouldn't have been able to pull that cage off of there and mangle it up like that. But I'm sure she was terrified. My chickens are over there. They were fine. Even though at the time, their pen, I usually leave it open so they can go out and explore that little section of the yard. But they're fine. They were up in their nesting boxes where I think even if they had gotten in there, they probably wouldn't have been able to get to them. But anyway, I'm sure they were terrified. My quail are fine. I don't see any evidence that they even took any interest in the quail whatsoever. Maybe they just didn't notice. But I think they noticed the rabbits. They probably smelled, the rabbit urine, the feces. They probably have their nose tuned to that. This cage was actually okay, but it was pulled out and barely hanging on. They had reached up there and grabbed it with their mouths probably and pulled it out, and were trying to get it down to the ground as well. So they were just, they thought somebody rang the dinner bell, the buffet line, whatever. And so out of these guys, this one fared the best. Let me get the light up a little. This one did the best. He seems fine. I don't think I didn't notice any blood on his feet or anything like that. But basically what they're doing is they're going up, and anywhere those rabbits are standing, there's a little bit of fleshy, meat sticking through. And those, coyotes or dogs or whatever will sit there and nip until they get blood. And then they'll try to pull them through the fence once they tear the wire. And in fact, I can see a place over there where I don't know if it's torn because of the dog or the coyotes or whatever they were, but I can see a place I'm going to have to patch up right there. This 1/4 inch, whatever it is, rabbit cage wire, it's not hardware cloth. It's thicker than that, but it wasn't thick enough. That's the problem. It wasn't thick enough. Not as a single layer. And I've got some solutions that I'm going to talk to you about here in a little while, but this one, look, do you see that blood? This one got his feet chewed up pretty badly. He's in the house right now. My wife put some special stuff on there. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a blue stuff that the vets use, and they put it on there to like sanitize, things like that. But like my wife said, and I didn't even think of that, she was like, we cannot eat this rabbit. We cannot feed this rabbit to the dogs or any other animals, because who knows, if it was a coyote or even wild dogs, it could have rabies, and that rabies could be in there. And I'm like, oh my God, does that mean we need to kill all the ones that possibly got exposed to that? This girl seems to have done okay, but there was blood. Let me show you. She got bit. See that? I don't know if that camera's picking it up because it's so dark in there. There we go. And I'm sorry, I know some people are squeamish about blood and stuff, but if you're going to have animals and you're going to have livestock and raise them outside like this as meat animals, this is something that you need to be really thinking about. And we've got some ideas, some things we can do, such as electrify the fence. You know, we could do that. We could put an electric wire around the top of the fence, the outside fence. See, this is what I keep referring to. We've got this chain link. Of course, now it's too bright. We've got this chain link with the wire, with the pokey bits sticking out at the top to prevent animals from climbing over, but it did not work. Now, let me show you the worst of all, because this is the only death that we had. Of course, right after my wife said that a week or two ago, and I'm not blaming her, I'm just saying that's just the way our luck seems to work. When you say something like that, when you get a favorite thing, when you're like, oh, I hope nothing ever happens to Pete, then some shit like this is going to happen. Excuse my French, but you know, I'm pretty upset about it. Hopefully that's picking that up. I can't tell on the little screen, but as you can see, and this was not like that yesterday. I was just out here looking at him and they chewed through rabbit wire. Now, I did not make this cage. This was a cage that I patched up and put together just for this buck. It came from our land that we bought. You know, there were several rabbit enclosures, and some of them we were able to rehab and put to use. But anyway, it could have been much, much worse. They had my one boy Pete, my favorite rabbit, my wife's favorite rabbit. They pulled him out, and I'm sure that was horrible for him to go through that. That upsets me just saying that. I mean, because you know, that's my job as, you know, someone as his caretaker. It was my job to protect him from that. So I feel like I've really failed, and you know, I'm going to have to certainly look at some solutions, either some traps. If it is coyotes, I'm going to have to look at some traps, or I'm going to have to try to sit out here Rambo style, you know, and hunt these bastards, because I'm not going to allow them to eat my animals like this. These are for me to eat and breed, and you know, I mean, I just get enjoyment coming out here and hanging out with the rabbits. And another thing I regret that might have saved both of these from being terrorized was yesterday I pulled these nesting boxes out, because I was like, well, the only reason we put them in there was because it was so cold. I was worried they weren't going to make it through that cold, you know, that really cold weather we had. And I mean, yeah, we were worried about that. You know, this tells you something. This buck over here, the one that got eaten last night, or partially, and you know, that's the thing. They didn't really eat him. I shouldn't say that. They didn't eat him. They just pulled him out and killed him, and then went on to the next cage. They were going to tear every one of my cages up if I hadn't have caught them. So we're going to definitely be on high alert. But anyway, yeah, I used to like to come out here. This one was so friendly. You could just reach in there and he would put his little nose up on you, and that let you know. Once he smelled you, you could pet him, and he didn't care. He loved it. He would just sit, he'd come over there next to the edge of the door there and let you pet him. So he's going to be greatly missed, but you know, that's the way it is. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. My wife loved him so much that when it got really, really cold, she was like, I'm bringing him in the house. And the next thing I know, there was a dog carrier crate thing, and she went out there in the freezing cold and got this rabbit and brought him in, because she was worried about him not only surviving, but being able to be a breeder. Because, you know, hey, if their testicles get too cold, then, you know, it could do damage. But anyway, yeah, I regret pulling those out, because at least they'd have had that safety of being inside that box. And, you know, some of these over here, that's another thing I kind of regret. I should have, like this one, you can see I have a piece of tile in there. These ones, I pulled it out because I was, again, over the winter, I blocked everything off and I closed it off. I just, you know, put a piece of a TV box. I had a big TV box and I stapled it up there. It looks like crap, but it kept my rabbits alive. And I was actually going to make a video about that. How cold can they take it? You know, I went and looked that up myself, and they were saying like 40 degrees. Let me tell you something. My rabbits, these New Zealands and I can't remember what the Tamuk cross that I have here, they were able to take it down to 0, and none of them died. Now, I'm sure it wasn't the nicest time for them. And I had that plastic pulled down. I've got a piece of board on that. I had that pulled down to block the north wind. Had boards all stacked up around here to block the wind. we just worked so hard, and you know, constantly changing out frozen water bottles. It was a lot of work, and those predators were going to come over and take it all away in a matter of minutes, you know. And I was trying to estimate that. How long do I think they were back here? You know, I bet you they weren't back here more than 10 minutes. I bet they did all that damage in 10 minutes or less. And you know how that goes. I mean, you could be in the shower that long. You could be on the toilet that long. You could be, you know, watching a TV show, trying to relax after work that long. Whatever it may be, the point is that it's going to be difficult for me to, you know, I don't think they're going to be a problem in the daytime. But at night, especially if it's coyotes, it's going to be difficult for me to catch these guys in the act and, you know, put them down. But I did get my pellet gun. I brought it into the house, but I wanted to show you one other thing here. These are the ones I keep on the ground. They're all females in there, but this wasn't here yesterday. They tried to dig underneath this cage here. Here's another spot that wasn't here yesterday. So that's all from last night. They were trying to dig in. And again, they know that this is the buffet over here. I've got rabbits, quail, chicken, all the smells that the coyotes would love. Just like if you're, you know, walking through the store and suddenly you smell some fried chicken or something, it just sets it off. You want to eat it. So anyway, sorry, it was kind of depressing. You know, I should not close on a bad note like that. Let me tell you a couple of things that we could do that might at least alleviate this problem. You know, I was telling my wife, one thing we could do to keep them from being able to nip at the feet like they did on these three over here is fairly easily, just because of the way these cages are made with these legs, I could come along here and skirt this with fencing, you know, like, I don't see any of it out right here, but like that 2-inch by 4-inch square fencing or rectangular fencing, I could put that all along the bottom and around the sides and back. The only problem with that is I'd have to make it to where it was easy to open so I could clean out the mess, because you can see I need to do it right now. There's a bunch of, and you know, maybe that's part of the reason they came. Maybe they smelled that. So, you know, again, we just got out of really, really cold weather. So I've got a ton of springtime projects like that are on the agenda. It's just, you know, with life, it's hard to do that when you have water leaks and all sorts of stuff like that. But anyway, also vehicle problems. I think I got my black Chevy fixed finally. I think it was a partially clogged fuel filter of all things. So hopefully, knock on wood, that's fixed. But anyway, I could put electric wire around the top of this thing, you know, like stand it off about 6 or 8 inches and put some electric wire around the top. The problem with that is we have cats, and the cats climb over the fence, and, you know, I don't want them getting shocked. So anyway, I wanted to share this with you guys. If you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments. Have you had to deal with coyotes before? Or, you know, I've heard a lot of people talk related to my quail cage. I made a video about making that quail cage, and a lot of people were saying, oh yeah, watch out for possums or for raccoons or whatever. And that is true, but we haven't had issues with that. Haven't had really any issues at all until last night. So I'm going to be on high alert for the next 24 hours. Probably more than that. Probably won't be getting much sleep at all, but yeah, I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to show you that. It seems disrespectful to my buddy, but this is part of it. This is the facts of life. Because this thing was eaten by, you know, bitten. He wasn't really eaten, and we can't tell if they just scared him to death. We didn't really see any big puncture wounds, but they may have broke his neck or something like that. But anyway, there's times that you can't, you know, the animal just goes to waste like this, and there's nothing you can do but bury it. It's sad, but it's the truth, and it's the reality of being a homesteader. If you're going to have anything under your care like that, this is what can happen. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Good luck to you on your projects. Oh, Pete. One good thing is at least we got your genetics. We got your offspring, so maybe one day there'll be another one just as sweet as you. I think I might have to go watch some videos on setting some coyote traps, and also I'm going to check out those 22 quiets that I mentioned. I've got some special 22 shells. I don't have many of them. Some 22 bullets, I should say, that are extra quiet, but they're also low power. I'm not sure they're powerful enough or accurate enough, so I really would need to go buy like a box or two of them and practice. Or either that or fill out the form or whatever and see if I can get a suppressor for a 22. Be a good excuse to get a suppressor, wouldn't it? Also, one of my other weaknesses I discovered last night is I don't have a single firearm that has a light built onto it. And so, in the dark, I'm pretty much blind. Now, I did have a really powerful handheld flashlight, but it'd be better to have two hands on the device, on the machine, on the gun. Yeah, there, I said it, YouTube. Oh, God, that sucks. Now, I got to go feed and water the rest of my rabbits and other animals and get ready for sit around and wait. Hopefully nothing happens, but got to keep your head on a swivel if you're going to have livestock, I guess. Anyway, appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.